G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. Today I've got this lovely juniper that belongs to a client, Richard, of mine. He was a bit perplexed on what to do with this tree, and I'll show you the issues with it at the moment. But it's a good tree to talk about because a lot of new people have trees like this. A lot of beginners have trees like this. So I see this all the time at the club and everywhere. But what do you do with these juniper horizontalis? They grow prostrata, they grow along the ground. That's their natural growth, and what to deal with it. Before I start working on this tree though, just to let you know that it's actually about mid-October now, but end of October, if you're in Perth, WA, I'll be making a trip out there. I'm being hosted by two bonsai clubs there, Bonsai Society of Western Australia and Bonsai Workshop. Now I'll be doing workshops there, and doing a demo at the Bonsai Society of Western Australia towards the end of October. Now if you're in the area in Perth, look up those clubs and I'm sure you can hit them up and see what they're all about, and if you can get in for a workshop or something like that if you want to come down. But anyway, just to let you know that. Alright, let's go back to this juniper. Now it's really healthy. It's a super healthy tree. You can see how nice and healthy that growth is. Really quite good. But hasn't been much styling done. Usually with these trees in nurseries, they stake them, put a stake in the ground and then tie the trunk to it. This is just hasn't had that job done to it. Now I'm just going to tip this forward, and hopefully you guys can see what the biggest issue is. Now it's pretty clear what the main issue is. I'll turn it this way. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm pretty much highlighting it. Okay, it's this very straight trunk, incredibly straight. It's got a nice little thing out here, comes out nicely, and then it's just straight. Really difficult and really thick. I'm not gonna do anything crazy like drill out, hollow it out, or anything like that. It's not the point of this, I think, for this tree. This tree's quite young. It's still quite a nice trunk to it. Now you can think of all these different ways to work on this tree and fix it and so on. I mean, I was contemplating, think about different positions. Think about, if I want to put it upright, will it work? Right? Probably not, because it's still straight. How are we going to deal with it? I've tried to, let's have a look the other way, spin it right around. I mean, it's not a bad tree there, but all the good growth and all the interesting growth on this side, still got the straight part. So when you're stuck with that kind of dilemma, you need to think of different angles. Okay, so do we go this way more? Do we make it even further down, cascading? Really let it hang. Both of those are probably the only thing we could really do with this tree. Okay, there's a little bit of a tuft of foliage here that's not really relevant. All the foliage is out on their tips, and the foliage starts about, you can see where the first branch is. It's all the way out here, and then there's a really strong, interesting branch in here. This is probably the feature of the tree, the nice cascading branch. But what do we do with the rest? How do we build the tree? Now we could go all the way down and make a real kind of literati kind of this cascade or semi-cascade or whatever you want to call it. Be very interesting. You can still see, obviously you can still see this. We have to disguise this somehow. Now it's not about me bending this or anything like that. It's just about maybe changing the angle towards the back a little bit. Now if I do that, it doesn't look, if you look straight on, it doesn't look, if I did that for example, you can see the whole thing. If I did that, you don't see the whole thing. You see probably it's shortened it by that much. Just slight change like that. Now we can actually then start maybe using later on a branch that will hide it, put it in a spot that will hide a bit more of that so you don't see it as much. Then we can build an apex around it in here that will actually hide it a bit more. Maybe use some of the back branch to just put it in around here. So by doing just slightly pushing that backwards, we still get this to go forwards. It actually might hide some of this area. I'm going to work with this angle of the tree at the moment. I've put a little bit of a chalk wood to boost it up. Have a little front here, highlighted by the wire. The trunk's slightly going backwards, and the main reason I want to use this, I want the upwards growth, because if I had to go to the downwards growth, the whole tree will be backwards, or pushing towards the back. This is kind of a little bit backwards, but a lot of this has come forward. I like this idea of the apex up here. I like this branch, important branch. I want it to sit in here to try and block this straight part. That's probably the biggest element in this tree to diagnose, to disguise this. Sorry. I will want to try and maybe get some lower, this to go a bit lower, like really nice cascading part. Build the tree around here, and then we'll get a nice tree out of it. I think it's really good, really strong, healthy growth. I'm going to start working on it. The way I approach this tree, or trees of this nature, pretty much all trees actually, is that I'm reworking from start to finish. Is I always work on the heaviest branches and wire them out. So I've actually found all the main branches and have wired all the main branches out. I haven't done all the tertiary ones yet. That's a bit too much work, but I've started with all the main ones. That's what I want to get at. Now this is probably the bit that's interesting, is this branch is going to form the apex, right? But it was at the back, and it was going down. By putting enough of a heavy gauge wire on there, I use 5mm aluminium, I've been able to raise it and bring the whole thing right around into here. Because this I might create the apex here, but I might use this as a side branch, it can come down to a side branch. I've got at least 4 branches in here, solid ones, 4, 5 probably, solid ones that can create somehow the cascading part that I want. I've got a nice little back branch at the back here which I'll move around, and then I've got all the sub branching which will create the pads. But yeah, first thing first is I always wire all the main branches, and then I can set the structure. I began working on wiring the tree in terms of getting the refinement levels done. So I've taken the main branch that I wanted to work with, and I've wired that into place. I've tried to pad out all the pads that I want. This trunk, this branch line, that was that one that goes down here, and it cut off into a sub branch over here. So 2 branches, wired, one lower, one a bit higher, wired out, padded out. Then some sub branches up here have been wired and padded out, creating different levels. I've also used that branch I was telling you about up here to try and disguise or hide this straight part, and I think it's working. I still got a lot to do. Now it's because I've only done the main branch, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with the other branches over that side. There's quite a few to deal with over here, a lot of foliage. Now I do need to bring some in to fill in gaps and so on, but it's coming along really well. It's coming along really nicely here. Beautiful padding out. Now the other ones will still be cascade branches, but they'll be a lot shorter because they're to the side. But I need to fill in some of these gaps in here with these branches. So again, it's important to keep branches, don't cut them off until you're 100% sure. Got to wire the back branch out completely, and then work on this apex and how I can use this. Can I use this in the design? But this will definitely form the apex, sitting in nicely here, and the tree is coming along really well. I've made quite a bit of progress on this tree. Really the only thing that's left is this apex, this large branch, which got a lot of sub branches lower down. That's all I need to really work on now. Everything else has been wired. I've got multiple, I really like the multiple cascading branches that I've created. I've got one here, one solid one here, and another smaller one in the middle here. All these create really nice depth and perspective to the tree. really nicely filled out. Now, just a matter of working on this apex and getting it into position, start wiring from the bottom up and see where I finish. I might have to try and maybe I'll twist this around into the back. I'll see how it goes, but a bit windy today, so bear with me. Really, there's a lot of foliage still on the tree, which I like. Junipers need the foliage for its health, so that's why I leave a lot of foliage on the tree. We really don't want to reduce it too much more than that. In terms of foliage, it's pretty nice. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you guys at the start is I just realized what I could label this video as, but I didn't tell you at the start. The owner actually picked this up for $10, so pretty damn cheap. Now we're creating something really quite pretty good for $10 stock. So that's probably going to be the title of the video, from $10 stock to bonsai. After wiring all the apex, all the branches that were in there, especially the small ones, I've been able to create a nice crown for the apex, for the top of the tree. I've reduced the long branch that was there before. I didn't need that length and I couldn't really bend it around. I didn't want to do that. I've got a lot of smaller branches in here that will be used to create the depth we need. The cascading branches, 1, 2, 3 on the back. I'll do a little spin so you can see the nice different layers and levels. It's nice to have multiple cascade branches, not just one. It gives more depth to the tree, makes the tree look more interesting. If you keep going around, the back's the back. It's all nicely wide out. Then come back into the front, in somewhere around here at this angle, something in that area. So from your perspective, you can see the layers happening, the different levels. Left a lot of foliage on, especially in the apex. There's quite a bit of branches, but this helps the tree recover as well. All that nice foliage keeps the tree growing, keeps the energy flowing in the tree. Lots more recovery, much faster recovery. The really a $10 juniper stock that he picked up for, now worth more than that, I reckon. I'm pretty happy with it. About 4 hours it took me to do all this work. So it doesn't take too long, but you've got to have a design in your head. The most important thing though, that really straight branch, you really can't see it that much anymore. This is hiding it. It's actually tilted a bit towards the back. Now if I show you side on, you'll see what I mean by it being tilted to the back. Okay, so that disguises it. I'm bringing it back here. This branch hides it. This branch kind of is hiding it as well a little bit. Now, one thing I did mention is I would like to maybe introduce, if I get it to work on it again, maybe some shari along here, eventually. Maybe running down to the trunk, a little bit of shari up here. It'll actually look alright. But I haven't done that for this tree, just to see what the owner likes. If he likes that idea, then we'll have a go at it, or he can create it himself. Put some nice little shari over time and make it a bit more interesting up here to change the dynamic of this straight part as well. So I didn't mention that, but that's another idea. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and a $10 bonsai stock juniper can be transformed into a lovely cascade, fixing problems, hiding problems, and creating the best tree. Thanks guys for watching.